Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, May 27th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. Before we begin, these are the headlines we're following at the top of the hour. President Moon Jae-in has taken part in a taped conversation with eco-advocates to discuss how best to protect the environment. He stressed the importance of each and every person making a little effort in their daily life, as that alone goes a long way. People in South Korea will now be able to reserve and receive leftover vaccines on the very same day, beginning today. And South Korea has joined NASA's Artemis space exploration program, an international alliance of 9 countries who want to ensure that space exploration is a peace endeavor. Beginning today, people in South Korea can make reservations and get inoculated with the so-called leftover vaccines on the very same day. The leftover vaccines are ones that had been booked by someone else who then didn't show up. Reservations can be made through the Naver and Kakao mobile phone applications. The move comes as part of government efforts to ramp up the speed of vaccinations. As of this morning, some 2 million people have been fully vaccinated in the country. Meanwhile, South Korea reported 629 new COVID-19 cases Thursday, 620 of which were local and 9 from overseas. 3 more people have died of the virus, raising the death toll to 1,943. More countries are seeing infections of the Indian variant of COVID-19. Alongside Germany, France has placed tighter restrictions on travelers from the UK due to a rise in cases of the Indian variant there. Now, meanwhile, Brazil has also identified its first Indian variant case. Lee Seung-jae reports.
British travelers may face stricter restrictions when traveling to France due to a large number of Indian variant cases being detected in the UK. According to France's foreign minister, while the UK will not end up in the highest red list category, it may face slightly tougher sanitary measures, potentially having a category of its own. Currently, British travelers to France must provide a negative PCR test 72 hours before arrival, fill a health declaration that places them into self-quarantine for 7 days before taking another PCR test. The Indian variant has already become the dominant strain in some parts of the UK, with a 160% increase in cases over the past week. As of last week, Public Health England said 3,424 cases of the variant had been reported. In Brazil, the country reported its first case of the Indian variant on Wednesday from a traveler arriving in the country. This is stoking concerns that the variant could further fuel the pandemic in one of the hardest hit countries in the world. Sao Paulo health authorities have requested a complete list of the passengers on the flight coming from India, as well as a full list of anyone who may have come into contact with the infected passenger. The South American nation has already lost more than 450,000 lives to COVID-19 and continues to struggle to contain its homegrown variant. The WHO's weekly epidemiological update showed on Wednesday that the Indian variant has now been officially recorded in 53 territories. However, the WHO also received information from unofficial sources that the variant has been found in 7 other territories, potentially raising the total to 60. The WHO added the variant shows increased transmissibility, but disease severity and risk of infection remain under investigation. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Pentagon has reiterated that joint military exercises with South Korea are crucial to ensuring the readiness of their combined forces despite the pandemic. Responding to a request by Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency, it said the scope and timing of future drills will be determined through close consultation between the allies. The last joint drill was held in March, but it was largely virtual in light of the pandemic. The next one is scheduled for August. As part of follow-up measures to last week's Seoul-Washington summit, South Korea has joined NASA's Artemis space exploration program. It's an international alliance of 9 countries who want to ensure that space exploration, including plans for a moon mission, is a peaceful endeavor. Kim Dami tells us more.
South Korea has taken one step closer to the moon by joining NASA's Artemis Accords. Launched in 2017, the American project is an international partnership which includes a series of guiding principles to make sure that the future of space exploration is peaceful. That includes transparent mission operations, support in emergency situations, and registration of space objects. Drawn up at the summit between the two leaders of South Korea and the U.S. last week, the deal makes Seoul the 10th country to join the accords, along with the UK, Italy, and Japan. South Korea is also the first country that the Biden administration has signed a partnership with. Inking the accords with NASA's administrator Bill Nelson, Seoul's Science Minister Im Hae-suk said transparent and responsible space development through international cooperation is crucial for successful space exploration. With Seoul-Washington space cooperation expected to be broader and deeper, South Korea will now be able to explore the unknown and become more actively involved in the space race, with its latest plans to launch moon orbiters in August next year and a target of landing the moon by the year 2030 using a homegrown shuttle. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
South Korea's central bank has kept its benchmark interest rate unchanged at a record low of 0.5%. The decision was made during the central bank's monetary policy meeting on Thursday morning. The rate freeze likely comes as the bank aims to keep its expansionary policy to offset economic uncertainties from the pandemic. While exports and investments are growing, the country's service sector remains sluggish due to a surge in COVID-19 cases. Previously, the Bank of Korea cut its key interest rate to 0.75% last March and lowered it once more to a record low of 0.5% in May last year. Appearing for the first time since Belarus passenger plane diversion and the arrest of an opposition journalist, the country's president is striking a defiant tone. He insists his decision was necessary to protect passengers on board from a possible bomb going off. Kim Hyo-sun reports.
The president of Belarus is defending his decision to divert a passenger flight over the weekend, which he says was legal and justified. In his first public appearance since the incident, Alexander Lukashenko claimed the move was not aimed at arresting an opposition journalist, but was necessary to protect passengers from a bomb threat, which he now says originated from Switzerland. The Belarusian authorities formally explained that the threats came via email from Hamas militants in Gaza, who strongly denied the accusation. Upon landing, no bomb was found. The Belarusian leader also slammed Western leaders for unfairly demonizing him and launching what he called a, quote, hybrid war.
Our ill-wishers outside and inside the country have changed their methods of attacking the state. They cross numerous red lines and also limits of reason and morale. It's no longer just an information war, it's a modern hybrid war, and we need to do everything to prevent it from spilling into a hot conflict.
The remarks come as EU leaders have discussed fresh sanctions against the country, urging member states to close their airspace and airports to all Belarusian airlines. Lukashenko said such measures were only the beginning, predicting that they would later target Russia, Belarus's closest ally. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
French energy giant Total has decided to suspend payment of all cash dividends to Myanmar's state-owned oil and gas group, which has been cited as one of the largest sources of income for the country's military junta. Total explained that the decision follows a shareholder vote earlier this month. While the company did not mention how much this would amount to, the Financial Times quoted an identified source who said the total dividends were around $350 million last year. Shareholders of the Myanmar oil and gas enterprise include America's Chevron and Thailand's state-owned oil and gas company, PTT. Ahead of the P4G Summit, which Seoul hosts later this week, President Moon Jae-in had taped a conversation with eco-advocates on how best to protect the environment. He said it's important each and everyone makes a little effort in their daily lives, as that alone goes a long way. Our Blue House correspondent Kim In-ji reports.
President Moon Jae-in is joining efforts to promote a multilateral climate summit which South Korea will hold in the coming days. He took part in talks with South Korean actress Park Jin-hee and American TV personality Tyler Rush, both advocates for climate action, to discuss ways to protect the environment. President Moon explained the efforts he makes in his own daily life, such as using a hydrogen car within the presidential compound and wearing a tie made from recycled waste. He said if he were the president of the earth, he would reduce marine waste.
해양 쓰레기를 줄이기 이런 여러 가지 이제 의무들이 이렇게 바다 환경을 오염시키게 되는데 이 부분을 전부 다 분해가 가능한 그런 이제 친환경 의구로 바꾸는 이런 부분들을.
The talk was arranged to raise awareness of the Partnering for Green Growth and Global Goals or P4G Summit that Seoul will host from May 30th to the 31st. It's aimed at enhancing partnerships to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement on climate change. The P4G is the first multilateral meeting related to the environment that South Korea will host, bringing together some 60 heads of state and international organizations. Seoul has been joining global efforts in response to climate change and declared last year that it would become carbon neutral by 2050. The country's current target is a 24.4% reduction in emissions from 2017 levels, with the government expected to raise the goal later this year.
사실 우리가 탄소에 많이 의존하는 경제 구조를 유지해 왔기 때문에 2050년까지 이 30년 이 짧은 기간에 탄소를 제로로 만든다는 것은 굉장히 어려운 일이에요. 그런데 그 속도를 가지고는 아까 지구 온도 1.5도 이하로 억제하는 것이 어렵겠다라는 것을 인식하고 2030년의 목표를 다 높이려는 노력을 국제적으로 하고 있어요.
President Moon also had a message for the South Korean public.
지구를 지키기 위해서 또 환경을 지키기 위해서 국가가 노력해야 되고 또 국제 간의 협력도 중요하지만 사실 더 중요한 것은 개개인들이 생활 속에서 하는 작은 실천이거든요.
The full clip is available to watch on the Blue House's official YouTube channel. 김민지, Arirang News.
Going carbon neutral by 2050 is something that cannot be achieved by any one group alone. Civil group leaders, local government officials, and businesses came together on Wednesday to share what role they can play to help Korea reach that goal. Kim Yan-sung shares with us what was discussed.
South Korea was the world's 9th largest carbon emitter in 2019, but it has pledged to reach net zero carbon emissions in 3 decades. An ambitious goal, but one that can be reached through joint efforts.
Business leaders, civil groups, and officials from local governments are taking on this challenging goal together. They've gathered here at the Westin Chosun Hotel in Seoul on Wednesday to discuss each of their roles in going carbon neutral.
We will each fulfill our part and duties so that we can reach a net zero of greenhouse gases by 2050 for our sustainable future, which will be represented by clear blue skies.
Businesses are responsible for innovating and investing in sustainable growth and renewable energy. Civil groups for promoting eco-friendly change. Local governments for curtailing emissions in their regions. For example, Goyangsi City in Gyeonggi-do Province aims to decrease its carbon footprint by more than 2 million tons by 2030.
We're changing the city. We're building eco-friendly buildings and designing the city around pedestrians so that we can reduce carbon emitted by cars. Our city is leading carbon neutrality, and our officials are building a sustainable city.
Also seated at the event were leaders of a youth activist group. Their generation has more at stake if the climate crisis escalates.
I think we can reach carbon neutrality if many organizations, local governments, and businesses continue to work together, and there continues to be events like this where they can come together to talk.
Former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon highlighted how the challenge is too big for any one group to solve alone.
The climate change crisis is too big for us, just one sector of society, or one industry, or one region, or even one age group. We must work together. We must all work together.
During his keynote speech, he also urged South Korea to be more ambitious when it comes to climate action. Kim Yan-sung, Arirang News.
Ahead of the 2021 P4G Summit, a special exhibition at Daerim Museum is showing how materials that are thrown away could be reborn as art. Raising awareness of environmental issues, it shares a message of the importance using biodegradable materials. Our culture correspondent Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
From furniture made out of old down jackets to art inspired by used fabrics, imaginative works await visitors to Tong's Vintage, the strange Tong의 General Store, a special exhibition to mark the 2021 P4G Seoul Summit. Artists have created 23 unique works using dumped objects and biodegradable materials to raise awareness on how we should deal with climate change.
As visitors move to the upper floors, the sections consist of 7 materials, placed in order of how long they take to decompose in nature, the slowest to fastest.
This is one of the exhibition sections called Playful Plastic. Using plastic waste, which takes centuries to naturally decompose, artists have created inspiring works of art.
One artist took inspiration from a factory producing PVC-coated steel pipes used for handrails and bus handles.
Factories get orders for different colors of pipes. When they change color, for example, from blue to yellow, some pipes come out with mixed-up colors. Factories see that as waste and throw them away, but I wanted to make them into art.
Masks are necessities these days, and not only defective products but old masks are piling up. Kim Han-il used tons of discarded mask fabric to make stools. Hoping that more biodegradable materials can be used in the future, one artist used cornstarch with the moisture completely removed.
I think climate change and environmental pollution are closely related to other crises that we face, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. I began to pay attention to sustainable design as part of efforts to improve an art culture that uses materials and throws them away.
Korea's First Lady Kim Jong-suk also toured the exhibition on Wednesday, recycling plastic and pledging to take action for the environment and future generations. By showing how once discarded items can be reborn as unique artwork, the artists hope their efforts inspire visitors to take more interest in environmental issues. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Welcome. It's time for The World Now, bringing you some of the most interesting news from around the globe. I'm Ji-young. The world's largest and most visited museum, the Musée du Louvre in Paris, will get its first female head in its 28-year history. Laurence Decaux was appointed as the new president-director of the Louvre by French President Emmanuel Macron. Decaux, 54, will replace the Louvre's outgoing director from September 1st. Her appointment comes just 4 years after she became first woman to lead another museum, the nearby Musée d'Orsay. The unity of Africa was expressed through fashion on Africa Day. Rwandan-born fashion designer and visual artist Ellie Gold used fashion by way of colors inspired by different African cultures. His fondness for the continent was showcased through his latest collection at a fashion show as the model strutted down the runway in colorful African prints. His fresh pieces were also inspired by his personal experience of leaving his home country of Rwanda at a young age due to civil war and genocide.
Due to what happened in my country, I was forced to live in different parts of Africa. By living in those places, I got to understand what Africa is about, and I got to meet different cultures. Then from there, I got an understanding what being united, could change the world and Africa in general in a way of uplifting one another.
His other projects also describe Africa, including Beyond Borders, which depicts a spirit traveling through space and time to Africa, where borders and limits to creativity do not exist. Instead of hands, they applaud with paws. Performances by dogs in movies over the last 12 months were honored at the Fido Awards held in London. The president of the awards, Toby Rose, said one of his favorite canine movies of the year was Netflix's short Two Distant Strangers, winner of the Fido Awards USA prize.
We had a very interesting winner of the short, which is called Two Distant Strangers. It was very much part of the Black Lives Matter theming, but interestingly featured a dog, and it was about a lovely, loving couple having a lovely, loving time, but finding that they had to go home to see the dog. And that was the pulling power in the film, going back to look after the dog. So it means that even in the most amorous of circumstances, dogs remain important.
The main award was split between Truffle Hunters and Stray. Previous winners include Quentin Tarantino's dog star of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Good morning. It's another day divided by differing weather conditions. Wet, cloudy, and breezy start, then turning brighter. Rain that started from the west coast early this morning is dropping showers to much of the country. And the capital region and west of Gangwon province will see 5 to 20 millimeters of showers. Elsewhere, we'll see sprinkles along with thunder and lightning. But rain will go away in the late afternoon. And top temperatures in most parts will be 1 to 3 degrees lower than yesterday, getting up to 20 degrees here in the capital, Daejeon topping out at 22 degrees. Meanwhile, those in South and Jeju could notice much sunnier skies with very strong UV rays, so our evening commute will be much more comfortable. But keep an umbrella handy. We are looking at heavier rain tomorrow. Then the last weekend of May will wrap up on a sunnier note. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.